All right, thank you guys. Welcome to our NBA video here today for Sunday, May 16th. My name is Brock Page and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. And if you want to see which one of these YouTube picks I'm actually betting on personally here today, don't forget to check me out on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage. Now, we are coming fresh off a winning day on my Patreon website yesterday. That's going to put us at 6-3 with a push in our last 10 board member tier package picks on that Patreon page. We also won 5 out of our last 8 $1.99 daily best plays on that Patreon site as well. And if you want to access today's daily best play, it's only going to cost you just $1.99. Now, we currently have over 1,202 members who are signed up and active on that site. And if you want to join those folks and get in on the action, link for that page is in the description section below. And once again, that's patreon.com/BrockPage. And with that, guys, we have a full slate here today. Every team in the NBA competing here this afternoon. So let's go ahead and get started. The Hornets take on the Wizards, 1 p.m. Eastern start time. The Wizards are -6.5, totals 229. Now, Beal and Neto, they're both listed as questionable for this afternoon's contest. Washington also has lost 2 out of their last 3. And they currently rank dead last in the league in points allowed. They're taking on a Charlotte club who's played some pretty good defense late in games. They currently rank in the top 5 in the NBA in fourth quarter points allowed. They're also led by Terry Rozier, who's scoring 20 points a game along with 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Meanwhile, LaMelo Ball, he's scoring over 15.5 points a night himself. 5 rebounds, 6 assists for the guard. The Hornets are in the top 10 defensively in third quarter points allowed as well. When it comes to the total in this one, Charlotte saw 2 out of their last 3 get over the line, 4 and 2 to the over in their last 6. Meanwhile, the Wizards saw 6 out of their last 8 get over the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Charlotte Hornets +6.5 in the over 229. Next ball game. It is going to be Pacers versus the Raptors, 1 o'clock Eastern tip-off. The Indiana Pacers are -6, numbers 229.5. Now, Brogdon, Sabonis, Lamb, Sumner, and Holiday, they're all questionable for today's contest. And even if they do decide to play their starters, Indiana's been one of the worst rebounding teams in the game. They're in the bottom 5 in offensive rebounding, bottom 10 in defensive rebounding as well. They're taking on a Toronto club who's actually sitting most of their starters themselves. Having said that, though, Norman Powell scoring nearly 20 points a night with his new team, along with 3 rebounds. Meanwhile, Chris Boucher, he's also dropping over 13.5 points a game himself, along with 6 boards. Now, total-wise, Toronto's 3-1 to the under in their last 4 ball games, 60% to the under in their last 10. Toronto's also gone 20-15 to the under as the home team. I'm going to lean toward the Toronto Raptors +6 in the under 229.5. Next matchup, it is going to be Celtics versus the Knicks, 1 p.m. East. The New York Knicks are -12, totals 212.5. Now, it looks like the Knicks are going to be all hands on deck here today. They're currently on a 2-game winning streak, 6-3 straight up in their last 9. New York gives up the fewest points per contest out of all the NBA teams, and that's been the way it's been all year long. You know, first in the NBA in that particular category, and they're also first in defending the 3-ball as well. They allow just 104 points a game, and they hold their opponents to just 33% shooting from beyond the arc. They're also 24-11 straight up at Madison Square Garden. They're taking on a Celtics team who's in the play-in game, whether they win or lose. Tatum, Walker, Fournier, Smart, and Thompson, they're all sitting this one out here today. The Celtics have also been victorious in only 15 of 35 road games. Now, when it comes to the total in this one, Boston saw their last 2 straight stay under the line, 6-4 to the under in their last 10 with New York. Meanwhile, the Knicks saw 3 out of their last 4 stay under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the New York Knicks -12 in the under 212.5. Next ball game, Suns versus the Spurs, 2 p.m. Eastern start time. The Phoenix Suns are -9, totals 225.5. Now, it does look like the Suns are going after it here today. They've won their last 2 straight, 7-3 straight up in their last 10. Phoenix has the second best record in the NBA at 50-21. They're also in the top 3 in offensive field goal percentage. Devin Booker's averaging over 25.5 points a night, 4 rebounds, 4 assists for D Book. Meanwhile, Chris Paul is averaging 16 points a game himself, 4 rebounds, 8 assists for the multi-time All-Star. The Suns are averaging nearly 116 points a night. Now they're taking on a Spurs team who's got a play-in game locked up in that 10th seed. Murray, Lyles, and Rudy Gay, they're all listed as questionable for today's action. The Spurs have lost 8 out of their last 10 ball games, and they do find themselves in the bottom 5 in the league in defensive rebounding. Now, total-wise, San Antonio saw 3 out of their last 4 ball games get over the line, 60% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, the Suns went 8-1 to the over in their last 9 themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Phoenix Suns -9 and the over 225.5. Next matchup, it is going to be Grizzlies, Warriors, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Golden State Warriors are -4, totals 229.5. Golden State's 24-11 straight up and home, 63% against the number in those home games. They're taking on a Memphis team who's got Ja Morant and Jonas Valanciunas listed as questionable. Meanwhile, Dylan Brooks is also listed as questionable as well. The Grizzlies have really struggled defensively late in games this year. They're in the bottom 5 in third quarter points allowed on the road, and they're also in the bottom 10 in fourth quarter points allowed on the road as well. Now, total-wise, Memphis is 22-13 to the over when they travel. Meanwhile, the Warriors saw their last 4 straight all get over the line as well. I'm going to lean toward the Golden State Warriors -4 and the over 229.5. Next contest, it is going to be Magic versus the Sixers, 7 p.m. Eastern tip-off. The Philadelphia 76ers are -7.5, numbers 218. Now, Philadelphia is most likely going to rest or limit minutes of their key guys here tonight. Having said that, though, the Magic are clearly looking to tank here today because they're currently tied with OKC for the second worst record in the NBA. And even if they did decide to play their starters here today, Orlando's won just 10 of 35 road games this year, and they're currently dead last in road offensive field goal percentage. Now, total-wise, Orlando's 3-1 to the under in their last 4 ball games, 60% to the under in their last 10. Meanwhile, 2 out of Philly's last 3 stayed under the number themselves, 4-3 to the under in their last 7. I'm going to lean toward the Philadelphia 76ers -7.5 and the under 218. Next ball game, Cavaliers versus the Nets, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. The Brooklyn Nets are -14, totals 225.5. Now, Brooklyn's won their last 4 straight contests, 4-0 against the spread in those 4 victories. They currently lead the NBA in offensive field goal percentage, top 3 in shooting the 3-ball. Kevin Durant averages 27 points a game, 7 rebounds, 5 assists for the forward. Meanwhile, Kyrie Irving scores 27 a night himself, 4 rebounds, 6 assists for Kyrie. The Nets average 119 points a game, and they make nearly 40% of their three-pointers. They're taking on a Cavs team who lost 12 out of their last 13. They also successfully covered the point spread just twice during that span. Cleveland's dead last in scoring on average per contest, dead last in shooting the 3-ball. They're also sitting Love, Dellavedova, Hartenstein, and Stevens here today. And when it comes to the number in this one, Cleveland's last 3 straight all fell under the line. Meanwhile, Brooklyn went 70% to the under in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Brooklyn Nets -14 and the under 225.5. Next contest, it is going to be Rockets versus the Hawks, 7 p.m. Eastern start. The Atlanta Hawks are -7.5, numbers 231. Atlanta's on a 3-game winning streak, 6-1 straight up in their last 7. Now, the Hawks have also been really good at the State Farm Arena this year. They're 24-11 straight up as the home team, 63% against the spread in those home games. Trae Young scoring 25.5 points per contest, 3 rebounds, 9 assists for the guard. Meanwhile, John Collins averages 17 points a night himself, along with 7 boards. The Hawks are one of the better rebounding teams in the game right now. With that in mind, they're currently in the top 5 in offensive rebounding at home, top 10 in defensive rebounding as well. Now they're taking on a Houston club who's won just 8 of 35 on the road this year. And of course, in addition to benching almost all of their roster here today, Houston's currently got the worst record in the NBA right now at just 17-54. Now, total-wise, this is a pretty high number for a Houston team who's got no scorers on the court here today. The Rockets are also 6-4 to the under in their last 10 meetings with Atlanta. Meanwhile, the Hawks on the other side, they saw their last 2 straight stay under the line. 20-15 to the under at the State Farm Arena. I'm going to lean toward the Atlanta Hawks -7.5 and the under 231. Next contest, it is going to be Heat versus the Pistons, 8 p.m. Eastern tip-off. Miami's -5, totals 214.5. The Heat's won 7 out of their last 9 ball games, 7-2 against this spread during that span. The Heat allow just 107 points a game when they travel, and they're led by Jimmy Butler, who's scoring 21.5 points per contest, along with 6 boards, 7 assists. Now, you do want to keep an eye on Jimmy Buckets if you're looking to fire on this game. He is listed as questionable for today's action, although I'm pretty optimistic we're going to see him playing. Meanwhile, Bam Adebayo, he's scoring over 18.5 points per contest himself, 9 rebounds, 5 assists for the big center. Miami's in the top 3 defensively in fewest third-quarter points allowed. They're taking on a Pistons squad who's 31 games below 500, and they're benching their starters here today. Ellington, Grant, Magruder, Doumbouya, Stewart, they're all out. Meanwhile, Joseph and Jackson, they're both listed as questionable. Detroit scores the fewest points out of any home team in the NBA. They're also dead last in home scoring, and they're averaging only 105 points a game at the Little Caesars Arena. Now, total-wise, oddly enough, Detroit saw games with Philadelphia, Orlando, and Dallas get over the number here recently. Miami's currently 8-2 to the over in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward the Miami Heat -5 and the over 214.5. Next matchup, it is going to be Nuggets versus the Blazers, 9 o'clock East. Portland's -9.5, totals 230. But as good as they've been here lately, the Blazers typically don't do a good job covering the point spread at home. Out of their 25 home games this year, they successfully cover the point spread in just 40% of those contests. They also give up 114 points a game, which puts them in the bottom 10 in the league in that category. They're taking on a Denver club who's tied with the Clippers in the Western Conference standings, both kind of fighting for that number 3 seed right now. The Nuggets are currently on a 3-game winning streak, and they also got the W in 7 out of their last 10. Now, the Denver Nuggets currently, they've not currently, just all season long, they've been pretty good on the road. They're 22-13 straight up as the road team, first in the NBA in road defensive rebounding. Nikola Jokic is scoring 26 points a night, 10 rebounds, 8 assists for the center. Meanwhile, Michael Porter Jr. scoring 19 points a game himself, along with 7 rebounds. Now, total-wise, Denver's last 2 straight stayed under the line, 60% to the under in their last 10. Meanwhile, the Blazers saw 4 out of their last 5 stay under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Denver Nuggets +9.5 and the under 230. Next contest, it is going to be Lakers versus the Pelicans, 9 p.m. Eastern start. The LA Lakers are -9.5, totals 223. LA's on a 4-game winning streak, top 3 in the NBA in road points allowed. The Lakers are giving up just 105 points a game when they travel. LeBron James is averaging 25 points a game, 7 rebounds, 7 assists for LeBron. Meanwhile, Anthony Davis is dropping 22 points a game himself, 8 rebounds, 3 assists for AD. Now, they're taking on a Pelican squad who's going to work today without Lonzo Ball and possibly Brandon Ingram. Meanwhile, Johnson and Adams, they're both questionable as well. The Pels are currently in the bottom 10 in points allowed, bottom 5 in defending the three ball. Now, total-wise, the Pelicans saw their last two straight get over the number, 23-12 to the over at the Smoothie King Center. Meanwhile, the Lakers saw 3 out of their last 4 get over the line themselves, 60% to the over in their last 10 meetings with New Orleans. I'm going to lean toward the LA Lakers minus 9.5 and the over 223. Next ball game, it is going to be Clippers versus the Thunder, 9 o'clock Eastern tip-off. The LA Clippers are minus 8, numbers 220. Now, Los Angeles has won 4 out of their last 6 ball games. They're first in the NBA in shooting the three ball. They're taking on an OKC team who's won just 9 home games this year. They're currently in the bottom 3 in scoring on average per contest. They're also currently in second to last place in the West at just 21-50 overall for the season. Now, Muscala and Dort, they're both sitting this one out here today. And when it comes to the total in this one, 3 out of OKC's last 4 got over the number. 21-14 to the over at the Chesapeake. I'm going to lean toward the LA Clippers minus 8 and the over 220. Next contest, Mavericks, Timberwolves, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Dallas Mavericks are minus 6.5, totals 230. Now, Dallas has won 8 out of their last 10 ball games. Top 3 in defensive field goal percentage on the road. The Mavericks are currently in 5th place in the West, and they're 21-14 straight up on the road. Luka Doncic averages over 27.5 points a game, 8 rebounds, 8 assists for the point guard. Meanwhile, Kristaps Porzingis is scoring 20 points a night himself, along with 9 rebounds. The Mavericks give up just 108 points a game when they travel. They're taking on a Minnesota squad who won just 12 of 35 at home this year. The T-Wolves currently have a .310 win percentage, and they're just 1 win better than the 14th place OKC Thunder. Minnesota ranks dead last in defending the three ball, bottom 3 defensively in points allowed. The T-Wolves, they've let their opponents hit nearly 40% of their three-pointers against them on the season. When it comes to the total in this one, Minnesota's last 4 straight all stayed under the line. I'm going to lean toward the Dallas Mavericks minus 6.5 and the under 230. Next ball game, Jazz versus the Kings, 9 o'clock East. The Utah Jazz are minus 9.5, totals 223. Now, Utah's currently got the best record in the league at 51-20. They also lead the NBA right now in offensive rebounding. Jordan Clarkson scores over 18 points a night off the bench, 4 rebounds, 2.5 assists for the guard. Meanwhile, Bogdan Bogdanovic is averaging 17 points a night himself, along with 3 rebounds. This Utah defense is in the top 3 in points allowed. They give up just 107 points a game. Now they're taking on a Sacramento club who's sitting Barnes, Holmes, and Bagley. The Kings went just 13-22 against the spread at the Golden One Center, and they gave up more points at home than any other team in the association. They currently rank dead last in the league in home points allowed, and they're also dead last in defending the three ball at home as well. The Kings give up nearly 120 points a night on their home court, and they're also letting their opponents make nearly 51% of their field goals there as well. And when it comes to the number in this one, Sacramento's 22-13 to the over as the home team. Utah is 70% to the over in their last 10 meetings with the Kings. I'm going to lean toward the Utah Jazz minus 9.5 and the over 223. And with that, we're going to dive into our next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be Bucks versus the Bulls, 9 p.m. Eastern start time. The Milwaukee Bucks are minus 2, totals 223 flat. And if you like the Bulls in an upset at home here, they're plus $1.15 for some money line cash. Now, Chicago's lost 2 out of their last 3 ball games, 4-6 against the spread in their last 10. Levine, Satoransky, Tice, and Brown, they're all listed as questionable for tonight's action. The Bulls have lost their last 10 straight against Milwaukee, and they failed to cover the number in their last 9 straight, hosting Milwaukee as well. Chicago's in the bottom 10 at home offensive rebounding, 14-21 straight up at the United Center. that they're taking on a Bucks team who leads the NBA in scoring on average per contest, top 3 in offensive rebounding. Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's averaging over 28 points a game, 11 boards, 5 assists for the forward. Meanwhile, Chris Middleton scoring over 20 points a night himself, 6 rebounds, 5 assists for Middleton. Now, total-wise, Milwaukee's 4-2 to the over in their last 6 ball games. I'm going to lean toward the Milwaukee Bucks -2 in the over 223. With that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. As I always remind you, day in and day out, if you guys decide to get a membership here today on my Patreon website, just keep in mind, Patreon's going to bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a package here today, you're going to get access to that content all the way through the end of May. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, happy Sunday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.